Quote, his work on the generation of cars that gave us 4 incredible championship doubles between 2010 and 2013 was truly outstanding. His influence will be missed, but once again, we thank him for all he has done and wish him the very best in his new role. These words from Christian Horner are not about Adrian Newey, but rather about McLaren's chief designer, Rob Marshall, who also left Red Bull recently. Where Marshall goes, championships are won. But who is he? And why is his departure from Red Bull and arrival at McLaren a bigger deal than you might think? We'll tell you all about it in this week's GPFans Special. Marshall started his F1 career at Benetton in 1994 and stayed on as the team transitioned into Renault. In 2005, he became head of mechanical design, chiefly because of his constant and innovative ideas. One of these was the mass damper that helped the team win both championships that year with Fernando Alonso and Giancarlo Fisichella. In 2006, Red Bull Racing came calling and offered him the job of chief designer under the leadership of a certain Adrian Newey. Marshall played a key role between 2010 and 2013 when Red Bull won its first 4 titles with Sebastian Vettel. In 2015, Marshall and Pierre Vacher took over the technical side of Red Bull, partly to take some of the load from Newey. In his new role, Marshall was a great influence again from 21 to 23 when Max Verstappen won his first 3 championships. In May of 2023, however, McLaren announced they had signed the Englishman from Red Bull. 9 months later, Marshall got to work in Woking. The fact that McLaren won its first constructors title in 26 years last season is not exactly a coincidence. Rob Marshall is known for looking for the grey areas in the regulations. The whole flexing wing concept was reportedly his brainchild. And in 2024, there was even speculation that McLaren had injected water into their tires. It was never proven, but Marshall had experimented with the same idea at Red Bull, although the team didn't want him to go through with it at the time. Anyway, the water in the tires has never been more than an accusation, but McLaren do seem to have an advantage in terms of tire wear compared to their rivals, and this should not be a surprise. At the end of 2023, when Marshall was on gardening leave and the RB19 was still profiting from his expertise, McLaren team principal Andrea Stella noted that Red Bull's big gains were made in tire wear. Now it's the other way around, with Christian Horner saying the same thing about the MCL 39. The concept of last year's Red Bull seems to be consistent with Marshall's philosophy. While Red Bull claimed they'd changed the car concept for 2024 to stay ahead of the competition, that doesn't seem to be the case entirely. Technical director Pierre Vacher said back in June of 2023 that Marshall still had a big influence on the technical department for the development of the 2024 car, despite leaving in May of 23. So that leaves us to wonder whether Red Bull are actually forced to change the car's concept because the brain behind it had left to the competition in McLaren. When we have a look at the timeline of it all, McLaren started scoring big points from the 2024 Miami Grand Prix when the team's first big upgrade package was introduced. Marshall reportedly had a hand in this, and the updates had immediate effect, whereas Red Bull struggled to make improvements. Red Bull advisor Dr. Helmut Marko knows there's a correlation between McLaren's rise and Marshall's arrival. Quote, I think there is clearly a connection there. Immediately after his switch, the upward trend at McLaren began. That knowledge has been transferred, and that Rob is a very experienced and good designer is well known. His signature is clearly visible at McLaren, and that our DNA is still in that car is also very likely. Well, now you know who Rob Marshall is and what impact he's had both at Red Bull and now at McLaren. Did you know about him, or have we actually taught you a thing or two here? Leave a comment down below and I'll catch you in the very next video. Thank you so much for watching.